until their outposts began to disappear, until their supply lines dissolved in flames, until their colonies, ringed in defenses, were silenced not by sieges, but by surgical strikes so precise that no survivors remained to tell what weapons had been used. The laughter stopped, the fear began. When Earth rose in fury. Then came the fleets. The skies above Veari Prime darkened as if the sun itself had abandoned them. Human dreadnoughts, leviathans of steel and fury, emerged from slipspace, each larger than a city, each bristling with weapons unseen in this age. Missiles that split into swarms of self-guided predators, plasma beams that carved through orbital fortresses as if they were paper, kinetic weapons, simple rods of tungsten dropped from orbit, that fell like divine hammers, each impact erasing kilometers of land. The Veari's fleets rose to meet them. Millions of ships, confident in numbers, desperate to defend their homeworld. They were swept aside. Human ships did not fight like other civilizations. They did not posture. They did not duel. They annihilated. Entire enemy formations were erased in seconds, not battles but executions. On the ground, the storm continued. Human drop pods fell through the atmosphere like shooting stars, their entry trails streaking the skies red. Soldiers of Earth, clad in armor that glowed with energy fields, landed like the judgment of gods. They did not conquer, they eradicated. The galaxy watches in terror. Every system in the galaxy watched. The feeds could not be hidden. The screams could not be silenced. Worlds that had once mocked humanity fell into silence, their leaders pale with fear. They had thought Earth was restrained because it was weak. They had thought humanity's mercy was softness, not discipline. Now they saw the truth. Mercy had been a choice. Restraint had been a kindness. And when that kindness was betrayed, humanity's vengeance was infinite. The fleets that had once been hidden, the arsenals whispered of but never seen, were unleashed without hesitation. In system after system, the Veari were scoured from existence. No negotiations, no treaties, no survivors. Where once the Veari had laughed at a burning hospital ship, now their own stars burned. The end of an empire. It took only 6 months. An empire that had lasted 10,000 years was reduced to ash in less than half a Terran cycle. The Veari homeworld, once covered in shining spires, became a blackened wasteland, its skies choked with smoke. Entire continents collapsed into oceans as orbital strikes reshaped the crust of the planet. And above the ruins hung the Terran fleet, silent, watching, waiting. A final broadcast was made across the galaxy. A single sentence, delivered in the same calm tone as before. Let this be remembered. Earth does not start wars, but Earth always ends them. The transmissions ended. The fleets withdrew. The galaxy was left in silence. Aftermath, whispers in the void. In the aftermath, the galaxy did not celebrate. No one toasted the fall of the Veari ascendancy. No one laughed at their arrogance. Instead, fear settled like dust. On distant worlds, in dimly lit council chambers, alien leaders whispered to each other. The words carried from one end of the galaxy to the other. Never provoke Earth again. And in those whispers came the unspoken understanding that humanity's patience was vast but not endless, that their mercy was deep but not without limit, and that when roused, their vengeance was not measured in battles or borders, but in the silence left behind when entire civilizations were erased. Humanity had returned to stillness, but the galaxy would never forget the fire that had lit its skies. The sin against mercy. They came in shadows, swift and merciless. The Sirathi Dominion, a predator race that had long mocked the idea of compassion, found their target drifting between the stars. It was not a warship, not a fortress, not even a mining convoy. It was a Terran hospital ship, its hull painted white, marked with glowing blue emblems recognized across the galaxy as the universal sign of sanctuary. Inside were the wounded, soldiers and civilians alike, gathered after the last border conflict, waiting for transfer back to Earth's care. Medical drones worked tirelessly. Human doctors treated even alien patients, enemies who had surrendered because Earth had declared, "Medicine knows no borders, mercy is for all." The Sirathi knew this. They knew, and they fired anyway. Lances of green plasma cut through the vessel's hull, slicing decks apart. Nurses screamed over failing comms, doctors rushed to shield patients, and in the silence of space, hundreds of lives blinked out. The ship's beacon, the ancient, sacred symbol that even the most brutal empires once respected, was snuffed like a candle. The Sirathi flagship did not pause. Their commander laughed, recording the destruction for propaganda. "See how fragile they are," he said. "See how the humans hide behind symbols of weakness." The galaxy heard that laugh. And it did not forget. Mockery across the stars. The days after the attack were filled with Sirathi arrogance. Their officials stood before the Dominion Council, boasting that Earth would do nothing. "They are bound by their own words," one senator sneered. "They preach restraint. They preach peace. The humans cannot afford to abandon their reputation of mercy." In taverns across their empire, soldiers shared the recordings. They mocked the screams of the wounded, replaying the moment the hospital ship split apart, laughing as if cruelty itself were a trophy. Even neutral species watching from the sidelines shook their heads. "Earth will protest," they whispered. "Perhaps sanctions, perhaps words." Because the humans had, for generations, been restrained. They had endured insult, endured ambushes, endured the arrogance of powers who believed patience meant weakness. The Sirathi counted on that patience. They mistook silence for surrender. They mistook mercy for cowardice. And in that mistake, their doom was sealed. The silence before the storm. The galaxy noticed something strange in the days that followed. No speeches from Earth, no protests to councils, no endless debates on morality, just silence. Sirathi merchants, usually bold in Terran trade lanes, began noticing patrol routes shifting. Terran colonies dimmed their transmissions, their skis locked under orbital shields. Certain gates and slip-space channels once open to all quietly shut down, guarded by ships that did not respond to hails. Then came the first whisper, a fleet sighted leaving Luna shipyards. It was not marked as exploration, nor peacekeeping, nor escort. It bore no civilian banners. Instead, its hulls were painted black, absorbing starlight, and on every prow glowed the single word that froze blood across the galaxy. Retribution. The humans did not announce their war. They did not posture or negotiate. Their silence was the sound of a blade being unsheathed. When Earth answered, it began on the edge of Sirathi space. Outposts went dark, fortresses that had stood for centuries, silenced in hours. Entire garrisons reported shadows blotting the stars. Then no more was heard. A convoy of Dominion warships, veterans of countless skirmishes, intercepted the first Terran fleet. Confident in their numbers, they opened fire, only to realize too late that every human vessel outranged them. Plasma bolts died before they reached their targets. Terran rail cannons tore holes through shields as though they were paper. The battle lasted 9 minutes. Survivors described it as not war, but execution. And still, the Terrans did not speak. World after world, station after station, the black fleets arrived. They did not conquer. They did not occupy. They erased. Orbital bombardments lit atmospheres with fire. Whole cities were reduced to ash in minutes. Dreadnoughts hung above planetary skies like judgment itself, unleashing storms that turned continents into oceans of glass. The Sirathi screamed for allies, but none came. Because as they begged, others remembered. It was a hospital ship. The galaxy now understood. This was no war for territory. This was vengeance. The sky on fire. The climax came at Velkar, the Dominion capital. Billions watched from the ground as alarms wailed, and the heavens filled with shapes. Thousands of Terran vessels, their engines glowing like suns. The Dominion's grand fleet rose to meet them, the pride of their species, row upon row of battleships. They opened fire in desperation, hurling every weapon they had into the abyss. The skies burned with plasma storms, shockwaves rippling through the upper atmosphere. But the humans did not falter. They advanced in silence, shield walls glowing, cannons roaring in rhythm like the beating of some colossal war drum. One by one, Dominion ships vanished into fire. Their screams filled comms, begging for mercy. The humans gave none. For every life taken aboard the hospital ship, 1,000 lives burned here. Witnesses said the human dreadnoughts moved like gods of old, vast, unshakable, merciless. Rail-round split moons. Orbital strikes turned night into a dawn of fire. The very air above Velkar shimmered with heat as the Dominion's defenses collapsed. And then the humans spoke. Across every